Hi guys, and thanks for tuning in. So recently Travis Day made a post that we shall give feedback on one-handed weapons compared to two-handed weapons. And I was lucky enough to get a pretty good example, and I would like to talk about that for a few minutes, guys. So what he said is they had a meeting going on, and basically they figured out that two-handed weapons are in a good spot where they are right now. So I completely disagree with that, and I would like to show you why that is. So on the actual version of the PTR, I was, as I said, lucky enough to find a one-handed weapon. This is a one-handed crossbow, and I will compare that to a two-handed crossbow. So first of all, let me show you both weapons that you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So this is the one-handed weapon that I found. It is a one-handed crossbow. I've never seen it before. I assume it's one of the newer ones that came into the game. Lucky enough, I was able to get a socket on it. That is pretty cool. Furthermore, it has dexterity and vitality on it, which gives a lot of HP, which is a pretty cool thing. And I would like to show you the possible roles where it could have been. So those are the roles that were possible for that item. So in fact, that could have been even better than it already is right now. So the maximum damage could have been higher, the dexterity could have been higher, and also the vitality could have been higher. So basically, this could be like roughly a 1300, 1350 crossbow, which is actually quite good for a one-handed weapon. So in comparison to that, I would like to show you a two-handed crossbow. In this specific example, it's a Buritsa. So this is the crossbow that I'm talking about. On the first glance, you already see the damage is lower. So I talk not about the weapon damage, but I talk about the DPS. Usually I like to refer to two-handed weapons are kind of better for some specific skills because spell damage is always calculated from weapon damage. And the weapon damage in this case for the two-handed crossbow is 889 to 1069. Compared to the one-handed crossbow, it's only 636 to 914, which will result in a lower spell damage, but there are other things to consider here. So let's take a look at the DPS, because those are the things that this specific state I would like to talk about. So the DPS of the two-handed crossbow is significantly lower than the one with the one-handed. So this comes from being a little bit unlucky with the rolls, I totally have to admit that. But when I compare the other stats, the stat ranges are totally identical. So this is an absolutely no-go. With a two-handed weapon you have significantly disadvantages. For example, you have a lower attack speed. Especially for a Demon Hunter, this can be very devastating because your regeneration of hatred will then be reduced to having external sources like a quiver with hatred regeneration or a cloak or whatever. So you need to have additional items to have more regeneration for your hatred source. So therefore, you have the first disadvantage. The second disadvantage is the lower attack speed makes it that you have to kite a bit more. So basically, when you can only attack one time per second, then you have to go back and attack another time. Will deal more damage, but you have to kite. Where on the other hand, when you have a one-handed crossbow, you can shoot 2 times, 3 times, maybe even, then go back, and you will deal significantly more damage. Furthermore, you will increase your resource regeneration, which is another big factor. So when you compare those two weapons, my opinion, the two-handed crossbow should be much higher in damage. So the problem right now is that either the one-handed crossbow is too high in damage, or the two-handed crossbow is too low in damage. Personally, I would say that two-handed weapons should be at least 1.5 times the damage of a one-handed weapon, at least. Personally, I think even 1.7 times would be even better. And additionally, the stat ranges for the additional stats that can roll, like dexterity and vitality, should be significantly higher because you have those disadvantages of having a lower attack speed and lower spirit regeneration. So therefore, you have to make up for. So let me give you another example. I will compare to older weapons. There's about a one-handed weapon and a two-handed scorn. I know those are hardly compared to each other, but it should serve my example because the question that Travis asked was, is it that two one-handed weapons are better than a two-handed weapon, or is it that a one-handed weapon plus a offhand are better compared to a one-handed weapon? So the idea is that when you have two one-handed weapons, let's say those are two weapons. Oh, let me show you this first. This is a one-handed weapon that I would state as a medium weapon. So this was something that you could get from the auction house for like roughly 50 to 100 million at the time I bought it. And this was the same for the Scorn. So this is the Scorn. I know the one is strength, the other one is dex. That's not the point. What I want to talk about is that if you have two of those weapons, you could have significantly more damage because this weapon has a socket, plus it has almost 100% critical hit damage. That means when you have two of them, you will have almost 400% critical hit damage. That is the first thing. Additionally, we'll have a massive higher attack speed, which will then result in a higher resource regeneration. That's the second thing. Additionally, when you take a look at the stats, those stats could have rolled up to 133 per dexterity and vitality. So when you have two of them, you will end up with almost the same results as with the Scorn that I have here on the other hand. Again, this is strength, I know that, but you could have the same Scorn with a dex roll, so that is not the point. So strength, dex, intelligence, those are the three sources that could have rolled there. And you could have up to 200 critical hit damage, plus a socket, which will then result in 300 critical hit damage max, or 310, 15, whatever. Not the point, it's that you can have almost 100 critical hit damage more with two one-handed weapons, plus the 15 additional attack speed that you gain from wearing two one-handed weapons, and the additional resource regeneration that you will also have from the higher attack speed. Furthermore, the stat ranges are almost identical if you add both weapons together. Again, let's assume you have two of those weapons, you will end up with the exact same result in stat ranges that you have compared to one-handed weapon. That is totally not acceptable. So, in my opinion, a two-handed weapon at least 1.5 times the damage of a one-handed weapon. That is absolutely core. Furthermore, higher stat ranges, max higher stat ranges than you have right now. So again, 1.5 to 1.7 times should be appropriate. To sum it up, higher damage for two-handed weapons, higher stat ranges for two-handed weapons, and a way to make up for the lack of resource regeneration that you will encounter with a two-handed weapon. So those are my thoughts on those topics. I hope you liked that video. If you do, give me a thumbs up and comment in the comment section below. If you don't like it, show me that with a dislike, tell me what I could do better. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and as always guys, see you in hell.